Hey guys, hope everybody's doing great today. Hey, what I want to talk to you today about is staying focused. And that's one of the most difficult things for an entrepreneur to do. It has certainly been one of the most difficult things that I've ever had to do and been capable of in my business career. And the lack of focus at times early on in my entrepreneurial career has certainly hindered us and definitely set us back several years. So, first off, who am I? I know a lot of y'all, we've got a couple hundred subscribers now. A lot of you know who we are. You follow our videos, you comment, you like, you've subscribed. I certainly appreciate all that, but we do have some new people that have started watching and commenting and wondering, who is Lee Godbold and who is Junk Removal Authority? So, my name is Lee Godbold. Been in the junk removal business 6 years now. Started it in North Carolina. Built it up to my business partner and myself built it up to a $2 million a year business by the end of year 5. Our business model is all junk removal, except we do some demolition now. We didn't start out doing demolition, but demolition pairs very well with it. We use dump trucks. We have one dump trailer for our demolition work. We've got 10 trucks total, and that's 3 locations: one in Raleigh, one in Greensboro, and one in Charlotte, North Carolina. Junk Removal Authority was founded as kind of our expansion plan out into the market, international eventually, starting out national, then international. It's a consulting and support business for the junk removal industry, offering complete business packages, Google AdWords management, search engine optimization, just general consulting work, websites, all that kind of stuff that have been built and tested and proven for the junk removal industry. We also have several other services that we'll be talking about, very excited about. We know a lot of people are going to be interested in moving forward. We'll be announcing those soon. What I want to talk to you about today in this video is staying focused. It's one of the, again, hardest things that you'll ever do, a true entrepreneur will ever do in his entire or his or her entire career. It's been very difficult for me. Most of y'all watching this video, not all, but most of y'all are either one, you're currently in the junk removal business, or 2, you're considering getting into it. It's a very exciting world to be a part of. There is a lot of money in junk removal, and I think a lot of people, either 1, getting into business, or 2, that have already been in it, they really underestimate how much money is in just junk removal. I mentioned we're at $2 million. We did $2 million a year after our 5th year. We are still growing. In our Raleigh location, the original location, did somewhere around 1.2, just over 1.2, and then Greensboro and Charlotte kind of split the rest. That Raleigh location, we're on pace to grow probably another 30% this year. So I mean, we're going to pass 1.5, 1.6 million with just Raleigh. And so even that Raleigh location after that period of time is just growing. And Raleigh is not a huge market. It's a little over 2 million, not even quite 2 million. It's about 1.7 million people, I believe, 1.7, 1.8 million. Charlotte's our largest market. It's about 2.4 million. Greensboro is our smallest at about 750,000. We've been successful in every single one of those markets using a proven formula. What's really easy for junk removal business owners and entrepreneurs and just business owners in general is after they get that initial startup done on their business and they get it up and going and they've gotten past that initial excitement of getting everything set up. And maybe their sales, all of a sudden, they've had a week or 2 or a month or 2 where their sales have kind of leveled off. It's very easy for that particular entrepreneur to think that he's maxed out the junk removal market or whatever service he's currently in. He's maxed that out in his market. So he needs to start another business, another service, or he needs to expand into another location. That right there is false. If you've been doing anything for just a year or two, for even 3 years, or even 4 years, I will 100% guarantee you have not maxed out your market. Now, you could have potentially maxed out how you're getting your customers. So if you're focused just on Craigslist, if you're focused just on flyers, if you're focused just on Facebook, if you're going with just the free, just the free ways to get business, or the very inexpensive ways to get business, and I want to use inexpensive with quotation marks, because too many of you are looking at investments, which advertising is an investment. Too many of you are looking at as investment as an expense, and that's not the case. But you very well could have maxed out the ways you're getting customers. So what you need to do in that case is you need to find other ways to get customers. The best way, without a doubt, is Google. There's no doubt about it. Every single one of you should know this, because every single one of you, if you're in an unfamiliar area, if you're looking for a service and you're not familiar with somebody, whatever, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go to Google. And there's some people out there that talk about just doing free advertising, not doing Google, but then they talk about every single time you turn around and somebody asks a question, like if they ask a question, it's guys on YouTube. Let's say, got some guys on YouTube and they're harping on don't use Google, don't use Google, don't use Google. But then all of a sudden, a viewer comes up, they might ask about insurance or something like that. It might be in a different area than these people are. These people probably know their area pretty well. But the first thing they say is, well, go to Google and research what business licenses you need in your market, what insurance you need in your market. Their very first thing is going to Google. Don't you think your customers, your potential customers, the very first thing they're going to do is go to Google. And that's why you've got to have a great presence on Google. If you don't have a great presence on Google, then you're certainly leaving a lot of money on the table. And that's the reason so many of y'all are tempted to get into other services before you've maxed out junk removal. Perfect junk removal, get to be the number one or number two anyway in your market. And don't even think of expanding into additional markets until you've maxed out that first business, that junk removal business. One of the things that's really easy to get tempted for people to do is to go into dumpsters, and that's a mistake. Dumpsters, the reason people get tempted by dumpsters is because, hey, I could take this dumpster to their house, charge them $350, whatever. I can drop this dumpster off, and then they load everything for me, so I'm not having to do the labor. Guys, I haven't been on a truck in probably 2 years. I literally have not been on a junk removal truck in probably 2 years. I've stopped in on I've stopped in on jobs from time to time. Christian mainly does that. I have other people to pretty much manage junk doctors. I think everything I think about is big picture. It's my main focus is JRA right now, but even before that, it was expansion for junk doctors. It was how do we get team members more motivated to do a better job? It was managing our trucks, that sort of deal. But I myself have not been and done the labor on a junk removal truck in over 2 years. I was full time on the truck for 1 year, and after that, I had other people doing pretty much everything as far as is all the labor. Worked it 7 days a week. You're gonna work a lot. You're gonna work 7 days a week, but you're gonna be working on the bookkeeping, the getting sales, the getting more business, the hiring, the firing. That's the kind of stuff your focus needs to be on, and needs to be 100% on expanding your junk removal business. With dumpsters, they think, all right, I don't have to do the labor. That's great. So we're saying, I'm not having to get out there and break my back and all that kind of stuff, do all the heavy lifting. Let's let the customers do some of it. The issue with that is, one, you shouldn't be on the truck anyway after a year and a half of operation. You should have other people doing that work so you can focus on sales. Two, you've got to have multiple dumpsters to even begin to be competitive in the dumpster market. Yeah, if y'all want to get out there and piddle, you can with 3 or 4 dumpsters. You need at minimum 10. You need more like 15 or 20 to actually be a serious player in the dumpster game. Dumpsters, brand new, are going to run you about $2,500 each. You might be able to find a company going out of business that has a bunch. You might want to ask yourself, why are they going out of business though? So anytime you see a dumpster company and they're selling off to 25 of their bins and their trucks or whatever, what's going on here? Why are they selling out? That doesn't mean it's a bad market. I know I've got a couple friends that make a tremendous amount of money in dumpsters, but they don't also get in junk removal. They focus on dumpsters. If you'll notice, Junk King and College Hunks and junk luggers have gotten into dumpsters recently. But guys, they've been in business for years before they ever got into dumpsters. There's a company called Rubbish Works, and Rubbish Works did the dumpster and the junk removal game. And I think they got to like 25 locations. It faltered. The model was broken, and it never became anywhere near the size of a Got Junk, even though one of the guys that founded Rubbish Works was an older Got Junk guy. He and Scudamore were kind of in together, and they were older. So the story goes. I've had several people tell me that before. So dumpsters is very tempting, but you got to own the dumpsters. You have twice the mileage. You got twice the wear and tear in your vehicle, and you're not controlling what goes in those bins. So it is. That's a very easy thing to get tempted on, but you want to maintain focus. You want to maintain focus on junk removal. Now, I mentioned before that some of the mistakes that I've made at being an entrepreneur generally comes from my focus swaying to a different idea. So we were going to create a kind of a website to compete with Angie's List, a customer review service, or compete with Angie's List. It was Ask Your Neighbors. It was going to be askyourneighbors.org, and it actually paired with Facebook, where you could see if your Facebook friends had reviewed a particular service and liked it. So the theory being that a neighbor posting a review on a business and having used a service before is going to be much more valuable than just some random person. Somebody you can actually verify. You could call them up and say, hey, were you really happy with these people? So that was the theory behind it. We spent about $25,000 developing that. Never used it because luckily I didn't keep making that mistake and actually put it in operation, which would have took my focus away from junk doctors and prevented us from starting JRA. The other thing is, in our second year in operation, we started a shredding service. We had a mobile shredding service. That was a mistake. Again, we're just going in too many different directions. You can't build multiple businesses at the same time, unless you have plenty of money where you can go out there and you can take losses in one or two of them and hire people to actually run each individual one, and you kind of oversee the whole deal. We weren't in that position. I don't think most of you are either. So that's the reason you got to stay laser focused on what you're doing. So we went off in the shredding direction. Luckily, we sold that business before we lost much money. And then the Ask Your Neighbors, that was $25,000 down the tube that we never recovered. Site's pretty much built out, but we have no plans of pursuing that anytime soon. And I think Angie's List, Home Advisor, Thumbtack, there's so many of those services out there. I think over time they're going to go away. They're going to become diluted. I think Angie's List is probably going to be bought out by Home Advisor or somebody here pretty soon anyway. But I don't think any of those businesses are going to stay long term. They're too much of a pain in the ass for the business owner, for the entrepreneur. And then the customers are, like with Home Advisor, the customers a lot of times don't realize when they submit the information, they're going to get blasted by a bunch of different companies about services provided. They'll get 4 calls in an hour, and they just wanted to be able to research different companies. So I don't think any of those are going to stay long term. So that's one of the reasons we're not going to pursue Ask Your Neighbors, and we just have to stay focused. Another thing y'all don't want to do is you don't want to have a bunch of different truck sizes. When you have a bunch of different truck sizes, it makes it a lot harder for your guys to quote, because every single job's a little bit different. Every single truck size is a bit different. So you want to get used to one truck size and just having them quoting one truck size. It also is a little bit more difficult to drive multiple different vehicles. Again, a lot of you guys are inexperienced drivers. You don't want to throw them several different vehicles. A lot of times it's just asking for trouble. Think of it, Southwest Airlines probably been the most successful airline over the past 30 years, if not ever. It's certainly been the most profitable year after year after year. And one of the greatest things they ever did is they have one type of airplane. They have the Boeing 737. So every single pilot within that organization is qualified to fly in the 737. They're very good at it with it. They understand the airplane. They're not getting confused and they're not flying multiple different types of planes, which all fly a bit different, which the avionics all operate a bit different. they're all different sizes. So, you got more chances of dinging a wingtip if you're in a 737 and you're not, you were just in a smaller Embraer or something like that. So, they kept the same plane size. You need to keep, for the most part, keep everything the same truck size. It makes everything very easy for people. And again, that's just part of staying focused, not going off in a million different directions. Guys, if you're in a market over 750,000 people, I would not even consider another service until at minimum you reach $500,000 in a year in revenue. I'd love to see you closer to 1 million. There's literally, if you're in a market above 1 million people, it is possible if you use proven methods, if you're not afraid to get on Google, if you're following up with your customers, if you're got a follow-up campaign with your previous customers, you should be able to get to 1 million, and you're willing to hire people, and you're willing to train people, and you're willing to fire people, and you're willing to really get out there and get known. Chamber of Commerce meetings, Rotary meetings. If you're willing to get out there and do all that stuff, and you have more than 1 million people in your market, and it's a reasonably good economic climate, or at least there are at least certain areas where people have jobs and they're making good money. There's there's the potential for you to have $1 million a year income in your junk removal business. I don't want to see you going into another service or expanding into another area until you've gotten $1 million in revenue. So. Just want to remind everybody, just to make sure you stay focused. It's definitely one of the greatest assets an entrepreneur can have. An entrepreneur that can really keep their eye on the ball for not days, weeks, not a year, not 2 years, but 5 years, 10 years, 20 years is going to be extremely successful. It's going to have a world-class organization. It's going to be just an extremely successful business owner. I have a lot of freedom in their life. The people that bounce from idea to idea with no focus and no direction are going to be the ones that ultimately falter. The ones that with the most stress, the most disappointment, the most failure. So you got to stay very focused on what you're doing. Junk removal is a proven model. We've done it with junk doctors, $2 million a year after year 5. We're helping people now with Junk Removal Authority do exactly what we did, and actually maybe even better than what we did, because we had to learn along the way. So people that come with us at the start are certainly going to be in a much better position than we were when we first started. Do not underestimate junk removal. I've had people before. I was talking with a guy the other day in Richmond, and he was getting advice from people, and they were saying, well, you need to do dumpsters, you need to do cleaning, you need to do junk removal because there's not enough business in junk removal. Guys, there's plenty of money in junk removal. There's a tremendous amount. But if you're not willing to do what it takes to reach those people, then you're not going to be able to have a $750,000 a year business or $1 million a year business. You're going to get stuck at $100,000 or $200,000 or something like that if you're just focused on the free advertising. I always harp on advertising. It is one of the best things we've ever done. Is go out there and we were willing to spend money to get customers. Now we hustled. We made phone calls. We made cold calls. We put up Craigslist ads. We did out flyers. We did all that type of stuff, but we were not afraid of spending money to get customers. And it doesn't matter if we did advertising and it broke even, guys. That was a potential long-term customer. It's a potential review you're going to get, which is going to help you convert more people. If you have more Google reviews, more Yelp reviews, there's a good chance that people are going to choose you over a competitor. That's potential referral, friends and family members, potential Facebook post they might put out about your business, and that's a repeat customer right there, guys. So even if you're breaking even in advertising, you got to keep banging it. You got to keep doing it. If you're breaking even in advertising, keep doing it, because that's going to be a long-term customer right there. Guys, just all I can say is stay focused. Don't get tempted. It's very easy as you become more successful and you get more money to lose focus, to go into additional service, to go into additional market. Most of the time, it's a mistake. Stay focused on junk removal. Become where you are the first or second, the largest junk removal company in your market, and then maybe consider an additional service. But until then, keep hitting that junk removal business hard, really hard, and it's going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened to you in your life. I promise you. Thanks, guys.